forward to working with colleagues as it progresses through your Lordship's House?
My Lords, with your Lordship's permission, I'll use the minutes available to me to speak principally about the clauses that relate to prisoners detained indefinitely for public protection. But before I do so, may I congratulate in advance the noble Lord, Lord Carter of Hazelmere, on his impending maiden speech. We have had great discussion of human rights in various contexts over the last few weeks and months. And noble lords, no doubt, do not need reminding of the scandal of a sentence that was actually abolished because of a judgment of the European Court of Human Rights, but is still being served 10 years on by those caught up in it. My noble and learned friend, the Minister, provided some figures to the House about the current situation. And if I just highlight a few of those figures, with none of which I'm disagreeing, there are nearly 3,000 people in jail serving this sentence. And of those, 57% are on recall. 43% have never been released. Nearly all of those people who have not been released have served their minimum tariff. There are only 20 who have not served the minimum tariff. All the rest are over tariff, and more than half of those have been held for 10 years or more over their original tariff. 10 years over their original tariff. And finally, a figure that my noble friend didn't mention, but I will. There were 78 people serving an IPP sentence who have taken their own lives while in prison. The truth is that this sentence is a form of mental torture. To have no notion of when it is you might be released, but to have only vague ideas of hoops that you have to go through, hoops that are very often withdrawn because of administrative failings or because of a move in prison, steps that you have to take that suddenly you find you can't take, and you're knocked back again. Knocked back is the term that is used, knocked back again. And if you eventually get to a parole board, finding that unlike any other prisoner, you have to demonstrate that you are safe before you can be taken out, and at the same time to do this in a context where your mental health is very likely deteriorating. More and more people are aware. The fact that the existing Lord Chancellor has actually described this as a stain is an extremely welcome acknowledgement on his part of the scandal. But there is a video also going round set up by the campaign, circulated by the Campaign for Social Justice, that claims to have recently to have achieved 7 million views. The public is aware of this issue, and they are sympathetic to the plight of these prisoners, as I suggest we should be. The Select Committee on Justice in the other place did a very, very thorough, serious and sympathetic report earlier this year. Their principal recommendation was a resentencing exercise. The government has rejected that. No doubt it is something we will return to in your Lordship's House. But there are also many other ways in which we could be helping those in prison. Now, the government is to be commended, and I know the personal efforts of my noble and learned friend, the Minister. The government is to be commended on certain things. We now have, since earlier this year, an action plan that contains discernible actions and appears to be getting attention from the civil servants at the Ministry of Justice, and that is very welcome. And I want to welcome the amendments made to the bill by the government in the other place, which addressed issues to do with IPP prisoners, and which are also very welcome. But, my Lords, all of these amendments inserted in the other place relate to prisoners who are out on licence. As I say, I think they are the best you could hope for. They are very good amendments, but they do nothing for those who are serving a sentence of imprisonment in jail. And as I say, I believe there are a range of ways in which we could help those. Some of those ways are perhaps at the more radical end, but there are others that are very gentle that I would hope that my noble and learned friend would find it possible to accept quite easily when we come to committee, and we shall be tabling amendments that relate to them. Finally, my Lords, may I simply say that I echo what the noble and learned Lord Thomas of Cumgead said about the responsibility of the state and about the necessity of recognising our moral responsibility in relation to prisoners who are suffering mental health issues very often because of the way we have treated them, a way which we acknowledge is not compatible with their human rights. My noble and learned friend, the Minister, made a great deal of the principle of public protection. But those are not the words over the door as he goes into his office. The words over the door say Ministry of Justice. When it comes to the committee stage of this bill, I very much hope that noble lords will be supportive of those amendments that are put forward that perhaps put that balance right and re-emphasise the responsibility of the state to administer justice to people who have been neglected too long.
My Lords, it's an absolute privilege